on WCS-TV News, we are talking about pre-K and kindergarten screening. With me today, we have Janet Nunley and Melany Crothers, who are our co-coordinators for pre-K and kindergarten screening. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Why don't we go ahead and start talking about pre-K screening. That will take place first. Janet, what are those days?
The dates for pre-K screening are Tuesday, April the 8th from 10 o'clock a.m. until 6 p.m. and April the 9th from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m.
And pre-K and kindergarten screening will both take place at Bobby Ray, right?
Yes.
In the gym.
Yes.
Melany, do you want to share just a little bit about where parents need to work in and out of the gym? They don't need to go to the main office.
Right. They will park in the parking lot right outside the gymnasium area and come into the gym down through the concrete steps and then come into the gym and someone will welcome them there.
Okay. So everything takes place in the gym, both for
Yes.
kindergarten and pre-K.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit about how the process will work, what parents can expect of pre-K kids when they come in, what they can expect at screening, and what their kids may need to do, and just kind of an overview of how that process goes?
Okay. Parents will, first they can go online, get an application from the school as far as registration and things like that. They will need to bring with them a copy of their income, like a pay stub or something like that, or where they filed their income tax for the year, and bring that with them as well as proof of address. And they will just come in and fill out several different applications. It does take a little time to fill that out, and then the child will be screened. At the screening, they will do things like ask the child about counting and jumping and things like that. And we will also assess their vision, check their eyes, and hearing as well, and speech. And then we take all of those things and put them together to assess the child's needs. Not all students will get into pre-K, just those. It's kind of based on need and on income who gets into pre-K. And so we put those things together to make our decisions.
Right, and we have some very specific steps that we have to go through to make sure that if kids do qualify right out or not for pre-K, correct?
Right, yes ma'am. And you do have to, the birth date for this year will be changing as well. The state has said that you will have to be 4 years old by April the 15th. And for August 15th, I'm sorry.
Okay.
By August 15th, 4 years old, they will have to be this year.
Right.
To come to pre-K.
And that's a change from in years past. I believe last year, Janet, you may remember it was...
I think it was August the 31st.
August 30th. Was this year before that, it was moved up even September 30th, is that right?
I think so.
Okay, so progressively that has moved up over the last 2 years, but this will be the last year that it moves. From here on out, it will be August 15th is the birthday cutoff. You have to be 4 for pre-K and 5 by that date to enter kindergarten, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. And we'll talk a little bit more about kindergarten here in a minute. And just a little bit more about how we do pull those kids into the pre-K program. Of course, you know, like I said, there's very specific criteria. We have a pre-K classroom, one in all 8 of our elementary schools, right?
Yes.
Okay.
With 20 students in each room.
Right, 20 students is the cap that we, by the state guidelines, we have to cap that at 20 students. A lot of times, you know, we would love to take more students, and we usually, about how many students do we usually have that apply?
Some schools will have as many as 60, 65 apply for 20 positions, 20 students. So there is, you definitely, if you're interested, you need to come at this time because we will be selecting students just shortly after screening.
Right, and it is based on zoning, current school zones.
Where you reside.
Yes. What if there are openings at some of the other schools? If a child is zoned for Bobby Ray, and it's one of those schools that has 65 applicants, of course we can't, you know, fill every kid in a pre-K program at Bobby Ray with those numbers. Are there spots? So is there any adjustment for that?
Yes, there are other schools like Irving College, maybe some other schools. If you're willing to drive your child to that other school, then they will accept those children
Okay.
as they are open. Of course, it will be for that zone first, but if they have positions available, they would take those students. But I think parents need to remember that pre-K day is from approximately 8 a.m. till 1:15, and they cannot ride the bus.
Right.
So parents will need to drive those students.
Right. That is a big kind of parental awareness part of there's no school transportation for pre-K
Right.
students.
Right.
And part of it is because those kids are 4 years old. They are much younger. And then another part is that helps us really maintain that ongoing everyday parent communication between the school or the teacher and the parents, so
Right.
we can
Seeing the parents
guarantee the
every
best
day.
education possible.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay. Still kind of keeping with pre-K, does the child need to come to that screening?
Yes, the child will need to be screened. If we prefer that the parent come with the child, but if the parent cannot attend, a grandparent or a babysitter can bring that child, but the child will need to attend to be assessed.
Okay. Now, do they need to call the school for appointments or for the
Yes.
pre-K screening?
Yes.
Okay, so they can just call the school that they're zoned for and get an appointment if they wish, which we do recommend, correct?
Yes.
It makes the flow much easier. We can kind of guarantee a little bit more that
Yes.
there's
Your
not a
wait won't
huge
be as long.
wave
Right.
of kids to be screened all at once. So that helps
It
us
does
manage
take
that a little bit more.
approximately an hour for us to screen the students. So in order to cut down on that time, we prefer that you have an appointment. But if you do not get an appointment, we would still welcome you to come.
Okay. Okay.
And I think there's one other thing. Do we close from 2 until 3
3,
o'clock every day?
for lunch.
Okay.
For lunch.
That way we allow Bobby Ray students to be picked up. We use that same parking lot for picking up
can
students
get really
there.
congested in
So
there.
that's, and most children are being picked up at that time. So we ask that there are no appointments from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. But we do stay till 6 on the first day so that parents that work can come in the evening.
Okay. And if parents don't know exactly, maybe they haven't had children go through the school system yet, but if parents don't know what school they're zoned for, they can call Durham Bus Services, correct, to find out what their
Yes.
zoning is.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, I think that's it for the highlights for pre-K.
I think so. And
Okay.
if anyone has any, if they can also go onto our school website at www.warrenschools.com for registration sheets or any other information.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay, let's talk about kindergarten screening.
Yes.
That is
Thursday, April the 10th from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. and Friday, April the 11th from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m.
okay, great. So it's all within pre-K and kindergarten is all within that same week.
Right.
Pre-K will be Tuesday and Wednesday. Kindergarten will be Thursday and Friday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and everything is set up just the same.
At Bobby
Do you
Ray.
want to talk about the process for kindergarten?
Sure. The process is much like pre-K. We will do screening on their vision and their hearing and their speech as well. The assessment is common, a little more difficult because the child is a little older. We ask some of the same type questions, counting, alphabet recognition, things like that. A child does not have to pass or fail to come to kindergarten.
And there really is no pass or
There
fail.
is
It
no
just
pass or
gathers that
fail.
information.
It just helps the teacher know where that child is when they begin the school year, at what point they need to begin. And so, but I do have lots of parents will ask, what if my child doesn't pass? There's not a pass.
No.
They, as long as they meet the birth date criteria, which has also changed. The birth date for kindergarten is 5 years old by August the 15th.
That's right. And it's the same process. Those dates have progressively moved up
Right.
until to August 15th. But just like pre-K, that's the way state law establishes that from here going forward. So it will not move unless the state law changes, which we don't foresee. But it will be August 15th from this point going forward.
And we do have, if your child has been in pre-K previously in the Warren County schools, or if your child has been in Covenant, Boyd Christian School, or Westwood, then, and your child is in that birth date from August the 15th until September 30th, then your child will still be eligible for kindergarten. If
Right.
you had prefer if your child went to Covenant or Westwood and you preferred your child to go into Warren County Schools pre-K, they would qualify for pre-K if they chose to do
Right.
that.
Now, for those kids that do not turn 5 by August 15th, there's an early entry procedure that we've established with Warren County Schools. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? And we can.
Sure.
We were both in on that development, so.
Yes, it is a little confusing for parents because of the recent change of birth date. Previously, in years past, it was September 30th. So the state has said if you have a birth date from August 15th until September 30th and you think your child qualifies academically, socially, and emotionally, then you may apply for early entry. By that we mean that your child can be assessed through all those processes that we've talked about, the hearing, vision, speech, and the academic, but your child will also be observed behaviorally, and then we will compile that, and if they have scored at a high rate that we have developed, then your child may qualify for early entry. So it may be that if you think your child were an exceptional student and ready to go, then you could possibly apply. It doesn't necessarily mean your child will get in, but we will go through the process,
And we do
and
have the
then
process
we will
in
make
place.
that decision, right?
Right. And the only difference that it would really make it screening, the parents still need to call and get an appointment. There's an extra application form that they'll have to fill out. And then during the process of screening, like you said, there'll be, teachers will fill out observational forms, and then a committee will come back together after the fact, after the screening is over and done with, and we'll look at all the applications that we have for early entry. The committee decides, and then we contact parents with what that determination is.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But we may not know. I know a lot of parents want to know right away because of daycare or what they need to do in the fall, and sometimes we can't make that decision immediately. That does take a process, so they may not have that information by the end of the school year. That may be a decision that is made later, so parents just need to be aware that it does take a process. It takes some time to complete that process, but that is meeting the state requirement.
Right.
We do want to offer that opportunity if a parent feels their child is ready.
And we also want to encourage parents to think about it at great length,
Right.
both in the short term and in the long term. We've seen kids who are on that younger side enter kindergarten and be very successful. On the other hand, we've seen kids on that younger side enter kindergarten and really struggle with the high level of expectations that kids have on them at kindergarten, and the pace and the academics and all that.
And the maturity as
Right,
well.
all of that. What we don't want to do is go ahead and let a kid enter kindergarten outside of the birthday cutoff, and for that to kind of set them up to really struggle in school long term.
Right.
And if a kid enters early, there's a possibility that they'll graduate high school and have to make adult decisions at 17, and if they go to college, that they'll be out away from home at 17 too.
Yes.
And sometimes that's a big concern that we try to take into consideration. What are the long-term impacts that maybe parents aren't as prone to think about just as their children are entering kindergarten. So that's a big decision that we try to make in the best interest of the child with all the information that we've gathered.
Yes, it is. And kindergarten is much more difficult than it was, say, when those parents were in school in kindergarten. So, while our expectations of kindergartners are great for all students, we want them to set them up so their maturity is equal to their academic
Right.
success.
We want to set them up for success in many arenas, not just
Yes.
academics.
We will help parents with that condition if they're not
Yeah.
sure what they want to do when they get there.
Sometimes that's when you're talking about what's appropriate pre-K or kindergarten based on if there are birthdays falling within that range.
Right.
That's a lot of information to sort through. So
Right.
that's very good that we'll have people there to kind of help parents look at the birthdays and make those sometimes very difficult decisions about what's
best for that
is
child.
best for their child.
Right.
And there's also Head Start. Did you mention Head
Head
Start?
Start as well.
That's correct.
Children that attended the 4-year-old program at Head Start, they will be grandfathered
Yes.
in.
Right.
And the Westwood, Covenant, and Boyd preschool programs, those are the only 3 in the county because those are state accredited.
Yes.
That's what qualifies them to be able to go ahead and those students to be grandfathered into our kindergarten program.
That was not allocated by us,
No,
but
no.
by the state, right?
Yes. Okay. So it will be much the same process as pre-K, the screening process. Again, we don't use those results to say, yes, your child meets for kindergarten, or no, your child does not meet for kindergarten. It just provides us extra information that we can make sure that we look at and we kind of go ahead and become acquainted with some of the students and maybe what we need to focus on in kindergarten when they come to us, right?
Exactly.
Something that parents might want to know, they want to know what to bring.
Yeah.
And for kindergarten, they will need to bring a birth certificate. A birth certificate, shot record, immunization, and proof of address also, because we will be zoning those students for the schools that they're zoned for. And those will be, we will take all that information and keep that information until the fall, and it will go directly to that school.
So it's not they won't have to fill out multiple copies of the same paperwork.
Correct.
We'll just make sure
and
that
they
that
can
gets
go
to the
as
appropriate
well
school.
go on the website warrenschools.com
Okay.
and print off the registration sheet, and that will save time
Okay.
as well.
At screening.
Yes.
Now you mentioned immunizations. There is an approved form that we have to have from the doctor's office.
Yes.
It's not just,
It's not
notes
the
of
mother's,
parents.
right.
It has to be on an approved form, and all the doctor's offices have that form, and they're aware of that expectation, correct?
Yes. And we do have a nurse that will be at screening that will look at those immunizations. If you think your child may or may not have all their shots, a nurse will check their shot record and let a parent know if there are shots that they still need
Okay.
for that.
And then they'll have that time.
Over
We
the
can go ahead
summer.
with the screening
Right.
process. and-
Yes, as
and-
long as they have that, you must have your birth certificate and immunization to begin school. As long as we have that
Okay.
on the first day of school.
Okay, wonderful. All right, I know there's extra information. What else do we need to talk about? To get an appointment for kindergarten screening, they still have to call their zoned school.
Yes.
So,
And if
then
you're
the
not
school
sure-
secretaries will set them up. Go
And
ahead,
if you're
I'm
not
sorry.
sure, call the best shed,
Mhm.
and they will tell you which school you're zoned for.
Great.
And once again, if you don't have an appointment, we prefer appointments. But if you do not, we prefer, you come as to not come at all.
Right.
So,
What would happen if maybe there's a family emergency and they're not able to make it to the one of the 2 days of screening for either pre-K or kindergarten? How is that handled?
if you would notify the school of the child's birth date and give the school as much information as possible, then that child will still go into the draw for the county, which occurs like in May at the end of the school year. And then if you'd like to know also, people always want to know who's going to be my child's teacher. You can find that out at the end of the school year. We usually post that at the school, and you can contact the school. You can call or visit the school to see who your child's teacher will be.
Okay.
But at the screening, you will have the opportunity to meet all the teachers.
Okay.
So,
That's a great opportunity.
yes, it is. And it's an opportunity for the teachers to meet the children as well.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. And there'll be little prizes and everything.
Oh,
Kids really
yeah.
enjoy
Yeah.
it, don't
Oh,
they?
yes, definitely.
Yeah, they
It's
do.
a lot of fun. It's a
Okay.
lot of fun. And there's toys for them to play with while they wait for their parents to fill out the paperwork and stuff like that. So,
Okay. It's a very well-run program. I must
Well, thank you.
tip my hat to you two ladies because
Thank you.
it runs very well, especially with the volume
Yes.
that we see of kids going through the program. I think we mentioned it earlier, but we may have upwards of 200 to 300 kids maybe coming through for pre-K screening, and then it's probably around
400 or 500 for kindergarten.
for kindergarten. So
Yes.
all in 4 days.
Mhm.
A lot of
And we
busy
do-
people there.
And we do also have like Head Start will be there. So if someone were interested in Head Start, they will also be there as well. Have a table for any
Okay.
younger children as well.
Okay. Any other information you all think that our viewers may need to know about pre-K or kindergarten screening?
You might run about the dates, Janet, one more time.
One more time.
for
Okay.
pre-K and
For
kindergarten.
pre-K, Tuesday, April the 8th from 10 until 6, and April the 9th from 8 until 2. And then kindergarten screening, Thursday, April the 10th from 10 until 6, and Friday, April the 11th from 8 until 2.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Lots of good information. This has been our Pre-K and kindergarten screening segment for Warren County Schools TV. I appreciate you watching. I'd also like to share, my name is Autumn Turner. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning for grades Pre-K through 6. If you have any additional questions about Pre-K or kindergarten screening, please feel free to call me. My office number is 668-4022. My extension is 277, or you can always call the school of which your child is zoned. Thank you for watching.